All right. So, as a disclaimer, I'm on their show on Thursdays, the iHemp Hour. I've learned a tremendous. I am not a hemp farmer, and I'm just a city boy who's learning all these new things. But I'll tell you, it's a lot of work to be a hemp farmer, but there's a lot of potential opportunity for such a nascent brand. I mean, it was what, the 2018 Farm Bill, when the hemp was legalized again after, what, 75 years or whatever it was. But let me introduce him anyway. It's Blaine Bechtold, who's the treasurer of the Industrial Hemp Association of Michigan, more commonly known as iHemp, and Dave Crable, who we call Mr. President. And so I want to start with Dave because, and again, we're all so interconnected. It's hard for me to, I need to have all these disclaimers. One of our projects is the Hero Project, which you don't see on this particular green screen behind me, but it's to support veterans. And one of the things that Dave does, well, he does many things, but one of the products he offers is a hemp-based Frisbee. Yes. That we're going to be including in the Hero Project. So if you buy one of Dave's hemp, it's not totally hemp. It's what, 30-40% hemp? Something like that?
25%.
Okay. Then 10% of what Dave makes off that goes to the veterans. So there you go. I have all the disclaimers in, I believe. Let's go with Dave first, then we'll go back to Blaine, because Blaine really, well, Dave's a farmer, but Blaine has got a lot of stuff going in the hemp space. So let's start with Dave. What gave you the idea to get into hemp frisbees?
Actually, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity to open some minds here about hemp. So it was actually is a friend of ours in Poland who's a former Detroit news reporter who wrote an article about iHemp Michigan, and a gentleman out in Los Angeles who's been working in the plastic space for 11 years reached out to me with the idea, and we decided to collaborate and move forward. So, and now Frisbees are the way.
But that's only the beginning. I mean, I think sitting next to you are a bunch of other products that are hemp-based in some way, or at least have hemp in them that you're also going to be moving forward. And that's really what I wanted to, because other people, particularly on this show where we don't really cover cannabis or marijuana or any of that stuff very much, think that hemp is just something to get high on, and that's far from the truth. I mean, that's not even close, right?
Yeah, most people think of this, when they think of cannabis as the flower, and this is some old dry out CBG that I have sitting on my desk, but a different cannabinoid. But this is the gold. Ultimately, it's a waste product. When you're going after this is a stalk. So this is a section of a hemp stalk. And so that inner part is a woody hurd, the inner core. And then you have these long fibers, the outer fibers. So this long fiber can be used for things like textiles, or this is an insulation product, for insulation. The hurd can be ground and used in these, these plastics. This is another hemp plastic company project. The hemp plastic companies has operations here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they're working with this gentleman out of New York State, and we connected up with him, and they're making this cooler. It's a kind of a unique koozie, if you will, for a bottle or a can, and it's out of hemp plastics. So there's a lot of different applications for the hemp plastics, and the idea with the plastics is to offset the virgin polypropylene. So we're right now we can't go to 100%. You can go up to like 30%. For people, there's vaporware out there at 60%, but I don't believe it. 25-30% is quite doable, and it makes, the more hemp fiber you put in the product, the more rigid it becomes. So there's always that balancing act. And then one of the questions I get all the time, Mike, is, well, is it biodegradable? And I've, my hemp journey started a couple of years ago, and I've learned a lot about hemp over the last couple of years, but I'm starting to learn about plastics, and any plastic can be biodegradable with an additive. So, but you don't necessarily want your Frisbee to dissolve, right?
At least not in your hands, right?
That'd be good for my sales, maybe,
Yeah. The other thing is, now I've been educated here over the last year on all this, but there's like 20,000 products that you can make out of hemp, and a lot of Michigan farmers are taking a serious look at it. But I know from my experience with you guys, it's a real learning process right now. We're very much in the testing and prototyping stage, right?
Yeah, it's in the early stage. I got a call today from someone that bought 30 acres out in Van Buren County, and he says, "Well, what should I grow?" It's like nothing until you get a contract, unless you want to just play around with it, you know. But there's it's interesting. I know you play on both sides of the .3, and it's looking like Michigan's going to be one of the largest, if not the largest, cannabis producer in the United States by year end. If all these licenses come through and everyone does what they say they're going to do, it's just going to be a market crash at some point. So, it's just not sustainable. So,
well, it's like Oregon for cannabis right now. I was at another show last week where there's a 3-year supply of cannabis in Oregon they're sitting on. So
yeah.
That doesn't do much for pricing. But like I say, there's so many other things it can do. And part of it, we should probably talk a little bit about, I think it was Lake Superior State is doing that program up there to remediate the mining waste. Is that Lake Superior State or where?
It's actually Northern Michigan University.
Northern Michigan, okay, yeah.
So we're working with Joe Teal, who's the economic development head up there. He'd be a real interesting guy to bring onto your show. I'll make that connection. So they're building an economy, a circular economy based on hemp. One of our iHemp Michigan members is actually moving his business and 8 employees, $1 million business, from Traverse City up to Marquette. And we're planning hemp where, Dow is, strip that, all the resources out of the soil. They have millions of gallons of wastewater that needs reclamated. They can grow this hemp, and from the waste products, they can create what's called biochar, and they can remediate not only the soil, but that water, that wastewater that's sitting up there, which is going to be a huge deal, and this will save right now, these companies like Dow, that have, done all this work up in the UP to mine these resources. They have to pay fees, from what I understand, every year because of the damage they've done to the earth right there. And, so if we can fix that, that's going to be an economic benefit to those who are fixing it as well.
Matt, I'm sure you have questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you guys are on the show today, because I happen to watch a show on the DIY network called Building Off the Grid. And they just had a show on last week where a guy built a guest house on his property out of Hempcrete, which was something I had never heard of before. So let's talk about that a little bit as a very solid building material.
Well, that would actually be Blaine Bechtel. Blaine, you got your big event coming up at the end of the month. Why don't you weigh in on that?
Well, that's this week.
Oh, is it this week?
This week.
Oh,
it is this week. Queued up. Can I share?
It is the end of the month. Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, sure. Oh, I got to switch that out so you can. Hang on one second here.
So, Matt, great that you brought those questions up, and thanks, guys, for having us on the show today. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about iHemp and how we got started and what this whole thing is about. So I used to work for USDA, retired, I do consulting work for farmers, was doing the background to tell my farmers whether or not to grow. I had the great opportunity to meet Dave. And at that time, our extension service really couldn't do a lot to help farmers learn about it. So that's how iHemp started. And we still do that. That's still part of our main core is education. But one of the big things we're doing is we're bringing the industry here to Michigan so that we can make an economy for the farmers here. So that's where we're headed. So with that being said, what you're seeing right now is actual Hempcrete bricks that we made a week ago out at the Critter Barn in Zeeland, Michigan. And this weekend, we have this event going on. It's a great event for the family and kids. It's free to come out. We're going to be making these Hempcrete bricks and baby goats. I love that.
Yeah.
They don't make the baby goats, but I mean,
we'll have baby goats to play with, absolutely. So we're gonna make about 300 of these bricks throughout the summer, and then they're gonna sell the bricks for $20 a piece, and we're gonna put them in a wall out there. So they're gonna raise some money for the Critter Farm, which is where they're moving to, because the Critter Barn right now is kind of, let's just say it's in a very urban area that built up around them, and it's very unsafe because there's not a lot of parking and people have to cross the road. It's a very busy road. So they're moving out to the Critter Farm, is what they're gonna do. So what you see there are the actual molds that we put the slurry into, let's call it slurry right now, into. We tap it into there, and then we take that mold off, and voila, we have the Hempcrete bricks. So,
so what do you mix the hemp fibers with to create these blocks?
So Dave, can you show your little thing again?
Yep.
So what I have something that's at this point that I know nobody else can do right now. I can do what they call decorticate. So I can take that stalk that Dave showed, and I can actually separate that outside fiber from the inside hurd, and the hurd is what we're making to make those bricks right there.
Yeah, it's ground down and mixed. It's mixed with lime, Matt. So it's basically, you know, this hemp hurd and lime and water. There is a formula with a little bit of Portland cement, but what we've done, what you know the guys out there have done is they sourced some local clay and mixed it, and it worked great as a binder. So that lime, you have lime, clay, and hemp hurd. They did one of the associations we're affiliated with is U.S. Hemp Building Association. I happen to have their logo right here, and they're working on certification. There was one of their members did the testing, ATSM testing for fire, and they have a scale of 0 to 400. I thought it was 0 to 40, but it's actually 0 to 400. And this is the first product they test that scored a 0. I mean, it won't burn. So,
can you imagine that in the Western United States, Matt? How that would be?
Yeah. Well, and they tested some of the hemp blocks on this show with a blowtorch, like a regular, like you'd have in your shop. And it once they took the blowtorch away, the fire went out. I mean, it was really remarkable. And
it's water permeable. There's a lot of air in that, so there's a lot of air pockets in the cellulose, so the hemp fiber, and just based on its construction. So what you found is that if you're in a hemp home, it's going to have a nice constant humidity. It's going to be a comfortable home, and you don't have those mold and mildew issues that you do with cement and concrete block and typical construction.
So we've got an exciting thing that's going to happen, and Dave doesn't even know about this. So surprise, Dave.
Going to surprise the president, huh?
Yeah. Well, you don't like to do that in the public airwaves, but this is going to happen here. Been working with a family over by the Hastings area, and has a daughter that's very, very allergic to most of the building materials that we presently use in homes. And they would like to try to have a home built out of whatever material they can to help eliminate that problem for her. And of course, hemp is one of those projects, one of those building materials. So we're actually starting the conversation, and I think within, I'm gonna give it a year here. So we potentially will have a Hempcrete hemp building material, let's put it that way, home built here in Michigan. So yeah, very exciting that all just kind of came together today, Dave. So I'll tell you more about that later, Dave. But
and I don't want to speak for these guys, but one of the things they really like to see happen here in Michigan is we become a center for hemp building materials, because we have the manufacturing expertise and knowledge here. I think we got a pretty environmentally friendly population here. But the big kicker is, as Dave alluded to in the beginning, with farmers, which I discovered in the course of the show, is if you don't have a contract to buy your product at the end of harvest, well, okay, that's swell, but then you've wasted a lot of money, right, Dave?
And it can be a lot. I grew an acre. My experience farming was 1 year, 2019. Grew 1 acre. It cost about $20,000 to grow that acre, and I still have CBD distillate. This is a distillate that you use to make your CBD tinctures,
which is used for medicinal purposes, not for getting high, right? So I want to make people understand that. So
it has a lot of, anti-inflammatory, has a lot of really good benefits.
And then Blaine is the farmer, and actually, this is where you can do a shameless plug, Blaine.
Okay.
So he has hemp hearts. He has I have his hemp oil. I bought some hemp oil for Christmas and bought some for friends. Down on the farm is his product. And
yeah, I don't know if you can see. There we go. Yep. So
go ahead and talk about your products there. I'm giving you an opportunity.
Where is this available? Where are these products available? Be sure to tell us that too.
Yep. So right now this is online available. Also, there's a couple of fine locations that carry this, and there will be more in the very near future that will be carrying more of this. So what this is actually, I grew two things when I grew 2 years ago. I grew the CBD and I grew the grain. So I couldn't find anybody to buy my grain because I was one of those people that grew and didn't have the end figured out on that one. So when you have lemonade, when you have lemons, you make lemonade. When you have hemp seed oil, or hemp seed, you make hemp seed oil. So this is actually cold pressed from the seed, the grain that's grown, filtered, and then bottled and made available for people. They use this for a lot of products. You can use it in cooking. Anything you can do with olive oil or flaxseed oil or any other kind of oil, you can use with this. One of the favorite things I like to do is I like to mix this with a little bit of seasoning. My local store over here carries a lemon dash kind of thing. It's really good. The lemon is like Pop Rocks, right? When you get it kind of burst in your mouth. So I like to make it for a dip for bread. You can also, again, use it for any day. Makes his breakfast with it with eggs and stuff. Also, they use this in cosmetics. We have to be careful about what we can say about what this can and can't do. But I have people that buy this for acne. They apply it to their acne that they have, and it clears it up. So
the FDA limits what they can say about anything that makes a medicinal reference. You got to go through the FDA, so they have to be careful what they say. So
this sells for about $15, $16 a bottle is what this sells for. And if you compare this to the olive oil with all the ingredients that are in the hemp seed oil, it's just a much better product than even olive oil is. So
high in essential amino acids and other good nutrients.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the body's cannabinoid system? That's where the CBD really comes in for medicinal purposes. We can safely say that. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so it wasn't until the late 90s where they actually discovered we have this whole system within our body, the endocannabinoid system, and we actually have receptors for cannabinoids. And so what are those cannabinoids? So when you grow the cannabis plant, there's that flower that's produced and it puts out these resins, and there's these little trichomes. And depending on the genetic of the cannabis plant, it's going to express different cannabinoids. And there's about 140 of them. CBD is one of them, cannabidiol. So, and everyone overgrew CBD in 2019. So CBG is what everyone's growing now. So there's a lot of that out there. But there's CBN, which is, I don't have one here on my desk, but I use that for sleep. It's a really good cannabinoid for sleep. So our body is designed to receive these, and it used to be an essential part of our diet. Hemp was something that was grown. Everyone grew it, because we needed it for our sails. We needed it for rope. We needed it for paper. It was a plant that was an essential part of our life, and that those grains, like these, the grain of the hemp plant is actually the seed. So this is one of our members, Lady Jane Hemp Seed. She sells a toasted sea salt seed, and if you look at the nutritional label, it's just blows you away. It's really good for you. So our body's set up to receive this. It's been unavailable to us for years, but now we have hemp flour. You can once Blaine does his press, to get that oil, you have what's called a cake, and that can be milled down to make a hemp flour. This is hemp hearts, where you just take that seed and you knock the outer shell off of the seed. And I put this in my oatmeal. That's really good stuff.
Hey, Dave, talk about your wall.
Oh, yeah, this is hemp wood. There's a company in Kentucky that we do a lot of work with. He's a sponsor of iHemp Michigan, and they manufacture a wood product, and they use So they take that hemp fiber, all those, these fibers, and they create a wood product out of it. This was for we gave away these little bowls for our Hempies Award last year, which, by the way, Blaine, we're going to have another Hempies Award coming up, aren't we?
We are, yep. One of the things we'll let everybody know about is we're going to be having our third expo, going to be in Lansing, Michigan, at the Lansing Center, January 21st and 22nd. It's a great way for everybody to come out and learn more about hemp and what it is. We're going to have kind of Friday is going to be a B2B day, and Saturday is going to be a business to consumer day. But Friday night at the Radisson will be the party. We can finally get together and have a party.
Yay.
I do like the party. And we're going to be doing our Hempy Award. So anybody that's making anything with hemp products, hemp-related things, can enter their product into this and be judged and win a cool award and get some recognition. So.
Yep. So, and then the other thing that we've talked about on your show is the auto industry is beginning to experiment with hemp in lieu of plastic-based composite materials. It's mostly in the high-end stuff, the BMWs and the Porsches and stuff. Eventually, I'm sure it'll work itself down into a more mainstream market, but that would be one of the things that could really drive hemp in Michigan if Ford and GM and I've lost track of what Chrysler calls itself these days, but that third company, if they got involved in that for interior, exterior parts, that could make a big difference, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's going to happen, like I can see it already happening, is that, everybody got into the CBD because that was the sexy money, right? Everybody thought they could make a lot of money. And some did. Those that were able to actually have the vertical integration or have it set up to sell at the end, they made money. And then the market crashed, that's fine. And so now we're bringing along, right, what Dave's making with the Frisbees and the hemp wood. And I'm able to do the decortications because they need that decortication so that they can make those products. So it's all going to happen, and we're going to get everybody excited. And then somebody's going to come along and say, great, I need 1 million pounds of this. How soon can you deliver? Well, okay, next year when we grow the crop. So that's what's going to happen. I can see here is we're going to get the train's going to be going. Everybody's going to get excited, and then we're going to have to wait till we can catch up. Now the supply will be able to catch up to the industry. So it's an exciting time right now with all that's going on, and we're really looking forward and really bringing a lot of industry here to Michigan. So we're excited.
Bruce Deitzen, I didn't tell Blaine about this yet. We haven't had a chance to talk, but Bruce built a hemp cart. He took a Mitsubishi Miata, the poor man's sports car, right? And he made a hemp body for it, and he's been taking it around to tech trade shows. It's really cool. So Bruce reached out to me this weekend, and I got him connected with our agronomist, and he's looking for some data and some numbers. He's making a presentation to the Biden administration because, these natural fibers, hemp isn't the only one, but it's the new kid on the block, and it has tremendous potential. But there's jute, there's flax, there's other natural fiber products that are inserted into plastics and different materials. So, it's exciting to see as all these pieces of the puzzle start to come together. We met with a gentleman in Australia that has a sustainable epoxy. He uses a plant-based epoxy, and we're going to bring that into the U.S. We're working with him right now. And so we're looking at ways to combine the hemp wood with the epoxy, maybe to make some flooring, like that H2O. Right now on the flooring market, everything's that vinyl, that solid vinyl flooring, the waterproof, like the H2O, so we need a sustainable solution for that.
Yeah.
And next week, we'll be running our first batch of hemp biodiesel to be able to see how that works. We know it works. We just got to get the testing going on it. But we'll have biodiesel here real soon. So,
yeah, it's really, and it was crazy. The reason I'm not totally sure why it was outlawed about 70 or 80 years ago. I think it was related to the cannabis question, right? Just all of that was lumped into one package.
Race warfare, primarily.
Yeah. A big part of it. And then the other part of it was that, okay, so remember Dave talked about paper, right? Well, we had a few people, somebody by the name of Hearst, that really didn't want to compete with the lumber and then the paper he was making. We had Dow Chemical come in. They didn't want some of this stuff. So There was a lot of other political pressures, but the main thing was because it looks and smells and acts like marijuana, so it must be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when we allowed it for the war, we put all that aside and we made it for the war, and then after that we said, well, we don't need it again.
Yeah, I know, Dave, you talked about this, that hemp textiles, which we have efforts underway in the state right now. I know Gary Schuler is still working like crazy to work with the governor to get a hemp textile industry going. But during World War II, they made army shirts out of hemp, and explain why.
Yeah, so Gary's met with both the U.S. and Canadian, the Royal Mounties, and they want hemp textiles because if you get a wound in a cotton shirt, you're going to get an infection. Hemp's naturally antibiotic, antibacterial, so you don't have the same infection issues, with hemp that you do with cotton. It's a game changer, and it's durable. I mean, it's super durable. I have hemp t-shirts that we offer, and the more you wash them, the softer they get. They're really, really nice, hold up well.
I can see Matt's mind's just spinning there. You got some more questions, Matt, I can tell.
Fire away,
I
man.
was just going to make a bad joke. The old Cheech and Chong song about Acapulco Gold. No stems, no seeds that you don't need. It turns out we do need the stems and seeds, right?
Yeah,
that's what we're making all this stuff out of.
Yes.
We've got a licensing deal with Tommy Chong, so look for a Tommy Chong hemp frisbee store near you soon.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's a solid clothing company. That's a good line of products. So I mean, basically, anything you can do with cotton, anything you can do with soy, it sounds like you can do with hemp one way or another. And we're just beginning to explore all of this stuff, right? I mean, it's all very much in its infancy. Yeah. So I know up north in my wife's stomping grounds in the Traverse City area, they started pulling out cherry trees and planting hops because of the growing beer industry in Michigan. It sounds like maybe some of them are going to be planting hemp too.